Welcome to Puerto Escondido, a stunning port town on the Pacific coast of Mexico's Oaxaca region. Known for its top-notch surfing, beautiful picturesque beaches, and laid-back bohemian vibe, I immediately fell in love with this small, unpretentious beach town and everyone in it. However, if you're a digital nomad, meaning you can make a living online from anywhere in the world, there are definitely some key things that you need to know about if you're considering making the trip here. While the seafood, beaches, and community are absolutely incredible, the Wi-Fi and infrastructure are not the best that I've come across. Can you work successfully as a digital nomad in Puerto Escondido? Watch this video to find out. Well, that was a fun intro. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new. My name is Crosby, and for the last 3 years, I have been a digital nomad. Most recently, I have started traveling internationally and sharing everything about my experience working remotely from beautiful destinations here on YouTube and my Instagram. This video is all about my most recent destination that I worked remotely from, and that is Puerto Escondido in Oaxaca, Mexico. So for some context, I pretty much went into this trip to Puerto Escondido on a total whim. I had like a 2-week break between trips that I had planned, and I was just like, where can I go that's tropical, that has fun other digital nomads and travelers that I can meet? And I came across a bunch of different spots in Mexico. You know, the typical ones are Tulum, Playa del Carmen, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico City, and a few others, but I wanted to try out somewhere that was on the coast that was a little bit more off the beaten path. So I wanted to be there for 2 weeks, do a ton of research, talk to a bunch of people, try out a lot of different spaces to work, different locations in the city, to make this really comprehensive digital nomad guide for any remote workers that are thinking about coming to Puerto Escondido and working remotely from there. In this video, I'm going to be covering a wide variety of things that are really important for digital nomads to know, specifically the Wi-Fi speeds and reliability, places to work, places to stay, the infrastructure, the cost of living, and overall safety. So without further ado, let's jump into the places to stay that I recommend for digital nomads. So while Puerto Escondido is a pretty small town, it is quite spread out. So you have about 5 to 6 main neighborhoods in Puerto Escondido. You have Rinconada and Bacocho, Centro, Tamarindo, Zicatela, and La Punta. The top recommendation that I have for digital nomads to stay in is Rinconada and Bacocho region. Rinconada is actually where I stayed for the 2 weeks that I was in Puerto Escondido. I stayed at Casa Los Odeli through Cowork Surf, and I will talk more about Casa Los Odeli a little bit later because it is where I did most of my online work and absolutely loved it, so stay tuned for that section of the video. But the Rinconado and Bacocho neighborhoods are definitely a great place to stay long term if you're planning on staying in Puerto Escondido for a few weeks or a few months at a time. It has by far the most reliable internet in town. There were people flocking to Casa Los Odeli like every other day because the internet went out in Zicatela or the electricity went out in La Punta. The infrastructure in those two neighborhoods are definitely not as good as they are in Rinconada, just from my own personal experience and talking with other people that have been there longer than I have. Not only that, but Rinconada and Bacocho are very, very close to some of the best beaches in town. So Carrizalillo, Bacocho, Manzanilla, and El Mirador de las Tortugas, which was by far my favorite sunset spot, and it was like a 10-15 minute walk from Casa Los Odeli. There are also some great restaurants and shops and grocery stores kind of scattered around this neighborhood. They're kind of a good mix between touristy and like a local feel, so you kind of get the best of both worlds in this neighborhood. But you really can't go wrong. Zicatela is another really great neighborhood to stay at. It is in a great location, so it's directly on the beach. For most of the places in Zicatela, you're pretty much on Zicatela Beach, which is like the longest, biggest beach in Puerto Escondido. So you have Playa Principal and Zicatela, they kind of run into one another. There are tons of cute shops. The Selena co-working space is in Zicatela, and one of my favorite gyms, Paradise Gym, is also right across the street from the Selena. It's also really easy to get around town from Zicatela. It's kind of a good hub because there are cabs everywhere, and colectivos, if you just walk up the road to like the main highway, lots of colectivos there as well. And like I said, we will discuss transportation a little bit later in this video. And then finally, La Punta. La Punta is backpacker paradise. There are tons of little restaurants, bars and shops geared very much toward tourists, but it still has that like beachy bohemian, chill, laid back vibe. So to me, it never felt like I was being bombarded by like tourist central. So in the morning, lots of surfers there, lots of people watching people surf. And then in the evening, people come from everywhere. Like it looks like a herd is just walking onto the beach every night to watch sunset, play beach volleyball, hang out. It's such a good vibe. And I definitely spent most of my sunsets in La Punta because a lot of my friends that I made were staying there. So it was easy just to kind of pop over there on a cab or on a colectivo, hang out with friends, watch the sunset, and then go find a cool restaurant to have for dinner. Personally, I would only want to stay in La Punta for a shorter period of time because like I said, the electricity, the internet does tend to go out here pretty frequently. And overall, the Wi-Fi in pretty much every hostel here is terrible from what I've heard. If I were to stay here, it would probably only be for like maybe like 5-6 days at a time. But yes, overall, Rinconada is my top pick for long-term digital nomads, but you can have a lot of fun as well in Zicatela and La Punta. So in terms of internet and places to work, obviously this is a huge piece in being successful as a digital nomad. Not only do you want to have fast, reliable internet, but you want to have a place that you can sit down, stay focused, and work all day long. Unfortunately, like I've been hinting at this whole video, Puerto Escondido is not known for its fast, reliable Wi-Fi. It's just not. There is a running joke among digital nomads in Mexico that if you go to Puerto Escondido, you're just not going to be online the entire time. I beg to differ. I had a lovely time working there and I only had a few hiccups like once or twice that I will get into soon, but yeah, overall, it is doable. You just have to, again, do your research, which is why it's great that you're watching this video and why I decided to make it. The best SIM card to get here is Telcel. It's very reliable, so I highly recommend you get this because if the Wi-Fi were to go out, you can connect to your hotspot and it usually is very reliable. However, there was one time, and apparently it happens like once a month for like 2 hours, there's just an internet blackout across the entire city. So for me, it happened on a Sunday night. I was at Casa Los Udeli with a bunch of friends. We were having a movie night with the people that were staying there and all of a sudden the Wi-Fi's not working, so we're like disconnecting from the Wi-Fi and all of a sudden all of our phones say no service and we're like, what is going on? We would like turn our phone off, turn it back on, airplane mode off, and it was just not working. And my friend Kevin from Eat By La Travel, who's been in Puerto Escondido for a few months now, he was like, well, this tends to happen sometimes. So that was probably the most intense sort of blackout that happened in Puerto Escondido. It was almost as if someone like unplugged the internet and plugged it back in to reset it. I don't really know, it's a mystery, but overall, most of the hostels that I've heard of that people stayed at, the Wi-Fi is not good at any of them, so don't really expect your lodging to have good Wi-Fi automatically, even Airbnbs and hotels. So my number one recommendation for places to work is at Casa Los Udeli. This is where I stayed for 2 weeks and I am not kidding, I scoured Puerto Escondido before I got there for the best place to live, work, meet other nomads and travelers, and just have a really good, reliable place to work every single day. And I did check out quite a few other spots around town, and by far, this one's my favorite, as it is for a lot of people in Puerto Escondido. There were a lot of people from all over town that would come work here every day who were staying in Zicatela or La Punta, and they said, they tried to book a place here, but it is booked out very far in advance because it is just so high in demand for digital nomads. So make sure if you're coming here, if you do want to book a place at Casa Los Udeli, do it ASAP. The Wi-Fi here is really fast and reliable. It ranges from about 50 to 100 megabytes per second. The only issues I've had is sometimes if there's just a ton of people on the Wi-Fi, it will occasionally cut out for a couple hours here and there. I had a lot of friends there that did a lot of video calls and they never really had too many problems, but that's just something to note. But for me, I post a lot of videos on YouTube and I uploaded 3 different videos in my time at Puerto, and they uploaded 15-minute videos in less than 20 minutes. Uploaded, processed, checked, all of the things, which is unheard of. Even my Wi-Fi at my home base in Tampa, Florida does not have that Wi-Fi speed, so I was extremely happy with that. Most of the co-working space is outside. There is a little room that's air conditioned and it's like first come first serve. So get in there earlier if you want to have like a quieter place to work with AC, which is always a plus. If you are not staying at Casa Los Udeli, if you're coming here from another part of town, at least the time that I was there, you have to pay 200 pesos to work in the co-working space during the day. I don't think you have to if you go to the cafe, so that's kind of a hack. If you want to like go and eat, go sit in the cafe and work. The Wi-Fi is just as good in there. And another big thing that I really liked about Los Odeli is it is not a party hostel. And this was really big for me because not that I hate partying, but I don't like it when I'm trying to go to sleep on a Wednesday night and people are partying till 2 o'clock in the morning and I can't sleep. I never had any issues sleeping here. It was very peaceful at night. The bar closes at 11 p.m. and the bar itself is not like crazy hopping, blaring music type of place. It's kind of chill. So that was really important to me to be able to get sleep. And I was in a 4-person female dorm and had 0 issues sleeping ever. So that was a huge plus for me. The second best place to work from my experience in Puerto Escondido is the Selena co-working space. If you haven't heard of Selena, it's a big co-working, co-living chain throughout Latin America and Europe, and most of the time their Wi-Fi is really good. So I went and checked out this Selena location. It's in the Zicatela neighborhood, right on the beach. Beautiful location, beautiful place to work. There's a lot of digital nomads and backpackers from all over the world here as well. However, at the time when I went to the Selena, the co-working space itself, which was upstairs, is actually closed for renovation. So I wasn't able to go experience that. However, there were a ton of people working downstairs in like the bar area and in the Amarisa Cafe, which is basically in the Selena itself. The Wi-Fi was decent. I tested it out, and when I was there, it was like averaging about 10 megabytes per second. I wouldn't go there to upload a YouTube video by any means, but you know, you can get your work done there for the most part. And while I was working downstairs, it is pretty loud, so they're playing music. There's a lot of people that are staying at the hostel that are just walking in and out, ordering food, and yeah, it's not a quiet place to work by any means. Whenever the co-working space opens back up, I'm sure that'll open up the places for you to make calls and have a more quiet place to work. Another great place to work is at Malagua Cafe. This is located in La Punta, and it's actually a cafe that's open for breakfast and lunch, but they also have a co-working space upstairs. So during the week, you pay 90 pesos for the day, which is extremely cheap, and on the weekends, it's actually free. So I went there on a Sunday. I went upstairs to check it out. I worked there for a few hours. The Wi-Fi is really fast. It was about 85 megabytes a second when I was there. However, the co-working space itself is quite small. So on a Sunday, I could easily get a spot. I walked right up there and had my own table and outlets. However, during the week, I could definitely see it getting pretty crowded. So, you know, I would just recommend that you get there early, and you can order food from the cafe downstairs and they'll deliver it upstairs to you in the co-working space. So it's a very beautiful place to work during the day. And there were 2 other spots that I did not have time to try out, unfortunately, but I've heard pretty good things. Pauline Creative Hub is a co-working space in the Bacocho area near Rinconada. It's a newer co-working space, and from the photos that I've seen, it's very like industrial looking. It kind of looks like a co-working space that you would see in like a regular city, not a beach town. With that being said, it is the most expensive co-working space in town. So for a day pass, it's 300 pesos. For a week pass, it's 850 pesos. And for a month pass, it's 2,500 pesos. And the other spot I didn't have time to try out is called El Petit Cafe. This cafe is located at Zicatela, and from the reviews that I've read, it has pretty decent, reliable internet and good food and air conditioning. So definitely try that out if you're in Puerto and you want to kind of hit up a different place. So for transportation, there are 3 main ways that you can easily get around at Puerto Escondido. If you don't have your own vehicle, then taxis are definitely the most convenient way to get around the city. Puerto Escondido is small in population, but it is quite spread out. So if you're staying in Rinconada and need to get to La Punta, it is like an hour walk and it's along a highway. So I almost always took a taxi when I needed to get over there, and same for people staying in La Punta or Zicatela. If you want to come over to Rinconada or Bacocho to go to one of the beaches here, you'll definitely want to take a taxi. They're very well marked, so you can easily see where the cabs are and wave them down. And especially in Zicatela and La Punta, there are heaps upon heaps of taxis always driving around day or night, because that is the area where the most tourists are. The other main way that people get around Puerto Escondido is on motorcycles. You can rent motorcycles for about 6,000 pesos a month. Obviously, this price can range up or down depending on the quality of the bike, but just make sure that you're not compromising quality for a lower price because there are a lot of accidents that happen. And I would not recommend riding a motorcycle here for your very first time. Most of the motorcycle drivers are pretty experienced and they're weaving in and out of cars, and the traffic is a little bit stressful if you don't know how to drive a motorbike very well. So just keep that in mind and definitely make sure that you know how to ride one before you get one here. And then lastly, if you don't have a motorbike and you don't want to spend too much money on a cab, you can also jump on a colectivo. These are basically just shared riding vehicles that are driving all along the main highway all through Puerto Escondido, so from Rinconada all the way to La Punta. If you walk out onto the main road and just look, there will be a ton of them driving around. They basically just look like a big pickup truck with a tent over the back. If you see one, just wave it down like a cab, jump on, and then there are like switches that you just turn on when you're close to your destination. Get off and pay 10 pesos to the driver. So it's very, very cheap, the cheapest option for transportation in the area. So yeah, if you are on a tight budget, colectivos will be your best friend. So the cost of living in Puerto Escondido is pretty similar to other smaller towns in Mexico and Latin America. For people that are earning euros or Canadian dollars or US dollars online, the cost of living here is typically quite inexpensive compared to their country of origin. I do know from talking to a lot of other travelers that have been to Puerto Escondido in the past, the prices across the board have gone up pretty significantly from even just a year ago. But if you want to see a highly detailed breakdown of what I spent in a 7-day period in Puerto Escondido, check out this video to see everything I spent in a week in Puerto Escondido and a very detailed overview of the cost of living here. But just an overview of some general prices. A 10-minute taxi ride from Rinconada to La Punta is usually about 70 pesos. A cab ride from Zigatella to Rinconada, which is about a 7-minute drive, is usually about 50 pesos. A cappuccino ranges from like 35 pesos to 50 pesos. A beer is usually about 30 to 40 pesos. A meal and a drink for one person can range anywhere from 150 to 300 pesos depending on where you go. A 1-hour yoga or workout class is usually about 120 to 150 pesos. And then a private one-on-one surfing lesson, I did mine at Blue Beach Surf School, is about 700 pesos. If you do it with a group, so if you do it with 2 or 3 people, this price will drop about 100 pesos. So at least at Blue Beach Surf School, I know if you did it with 2 people, it was 650 a person. If you did it with 3 people, it was 600 a person. So if you want to cut the cost down a little bit, you can do that. For me, these prices were very affordable, and I know that if I would really stuck to a strict budget, I could have probably survived on less than $1,000 a month in Puerto Escondido. But the only thing that was actually a lot more expensive than I expected was the shopping. So at least in Rinconada and La Punta, which are 2 kind of touristy areas, the prices were quite high. For a bikini set, I spent 850 pesos on that, and for a t-shirt, I got one for 300, but most of the ones that I was looking at were like 500 pesos. Maybe check out Mercado Benito Juarez for some really cheap finds. I got like a beach towel here, some anklets, random stuff for really, really cheap. And this is a spot that a lot of locals shop at for food and then just random essentials. So yeah, if you want to get something a lot cheaper, check out that market and you may find something there. Now, the community in Puerto Escondido is really, really special. I made so many friends here right off the bat. For context, I came to Puerto Escondido solo and I didn't really know anyone going in. I had one friend that I made in Colombia that I met for 3 days, and then we randomly just happened to be in this town at the same time. So I met up with her and then met up one of her mutual friends who then introduced me to a few other people, and it just kind of snowballed from there. I also made a ton of friends at Casa Los Udeli. The community there is amazing. There are so many digital nomads and travelers from all over the world that come to Puerto Escondido, but Casa Los Udeli in specific, who also work online and move from place to place every few weeks or months at a time. I actually wanted to introduce you to a few of my friends that I made in Puerto Escondido to kind of show you where they're from and what they do online. I just thought that would be a really interesting addition to this video, so I'll let them take it from here.
Hi, I'm Iris. I'm from Austria. I'm a software engineer and I'm working as a contractor for a US-based company. Hey there YouTubers, I'm Ariel. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia in the United States, and I do digital experience consulting. So I work a 9 to 5 for a US-based company. I surf in the mornings, I do CrossFit in the morning, sometimes surf at night, and work here from Puerto Escondido.
Hello, my name is Marius. I'm from Germany and I'm an instructor on Udemy and I sell online courses.
I'm Jess. I live in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm a product manager for a fintech startup.
Hey, my name is Allison and I'm from Canada. I'm a contractor for a US-based company. It's like an online learning platform, and I just got that job because I'd taken one of their classes and I loved it, and I just reached out to them, and slowly I've started to work more and more to now I can basically work from anywhere in the world and support myself.
Hi, my name is Masha. I am 22 and I'm from the Netherlands, and I'm currently working in sales, and I'm selling summaries and tutoring and exam trainings to med and law students.
We are Jenny and Kevin with Eat by La Travel.
We're originally from Chicago, but we are Mexican American and come from an immigrant family from Mexico. And so the past year we've been traveling Mexico in search of home, and we've been documenting and sharing on our YouTube channel, which is Eat by La Travel. You know, hasn't been a main source of money, but it's one way that's helped us continue this location independent lifestyle where we're traveling, not necessarily tied to one specific place, and taking our time looking for home in Mexico. Along the way, we're volunteering at hostels. We're currently volunteering here at Los Odeli in Puerto Escondido.
We're also teaching English, teaching
salsa
bachata classes. So we're just really hustling here in whatever location that we go to, but Puerto Escondido has been very good to us so far.
And it's been great to meet Crosby. It's been really fun hanging out, so thanks for the good times.
So aside from the digital nomad community in Puerto Escondido, there are also a lot of expats that come here. There are so many people that I met who came from Europe or the US or Canada or somewhere else around the world that were only planning on staying for a few weeks at a time, ended up getting stuck here. And this is definitely a trend among a lot of the people that I met. You know, people come for a few weeks at a time and just extend their trip, extend, as long as their visa will allow them to. And then lastly, there are just a lot of tourists in general. Most of the travelers that I met were backpackers who were on a Mexico or Latin America trip, and Puerto Escondido was one of their stops. So there is no shortage of fun things to do in Puerto Escondido for a huge variety of people. If you are really into yoga and working out and wellness, there is a massive community here for that. If you're really into surfing and beach life, obviously there's a huge community for that. And if you're really into nightlife and dancing and live music, there is tons of that as well. So there is bound to be something in Puerto Escondido that you enjoy doing. For me personally, I definitely leaned towards like the working out, wellness kind side of things. So I spent a lot of my money on yoga and workout classes. A couple of my favorite spots for yoga were Casa de Olas. I've also heard really good things about One Love. And then I also really enjoyed going to Paradise Gym for HIIT or weight focused classes. I highly recommend Seep Coaching. He is fantastic for private coaching and then workout classes in general. I also loved going to yoga with Pablo or Charlotte at Casa de Olas. So big shout out to them. Obviously with surfing, I surfed a lot with Blue Beach Surf School and highly recommend them. They are very professional local guides that are really good at surfing and really fun to hang out with in the mornings in the water. And like I also mentioned, nightlife is huge in Puerto Escondido. So there's tons of places where you can learn how to dance. Wednesday nights, I think, are salsa nights. Thursday nights are karaoke nights at Punta Origen. This is a really fun event as well. La Punta has really great restaurants for live music, a few really fun bars. I loved Boneyard. It's really interesting. They have a literal skate rink in the restaurant itself, so you can watch people just skate and you can have drinks and eat food, and it's really entertaining. And then as it gets later in the night, pretty much everyone moves from La Punta to Zicatela because Zicatela has a lot of the late night clubs. I didn't go to them. I'm not a huge partier. I like a good happy hour and live music, but I didn't go to any of the clubs, but they seemed really fun. You can also do really fun things like whale watching, dolphin watching. You can release baby sea turtles into the ocean. That's a really popular one that I did on one of my last nights there. There There's also nearby, there is some bioluminescence that you can go and kayak through. And then there's also lots of day trips and weekend trips that you can take to places like Mazunte and San Jose del Pacifico and even Oaxaca City. So yeah, like I said, if you're traveling solo to Puerto like I was, staying at a hostel was extremely helpful to make friends, because at least at Casa Los Udeli, there was an activity pretty much every single night that you could do with other people in the hostel. So I met a lot of people on sunset watches. We went to Mirador de las Tortugas a few times. We had a movie night one night, a karaoke night one night. Oh, making this video is just like making me miss Puerto. I need to go back. And then lastly, we can quickly touch on safety. Obviously, the elephant in the room about safety in Mexico is that it does have the reputation of not being very safe, especially for women who are traveling solo like me. So if you are a woman who is traveling solo to Mexico, I do have a video that I just created about all of my safety tips and precautions that I take before traveling to a foreign country, specifically Mexico, in this video. So definitely check that out if you're interested. But I have felt so incredibly safe in Puerto Escondido. It's actually one of the safest towns in all of Mexico, and Oaxaca, the region itself, is also ranked as one of the safest regions in Mexico. Even walking alone at night in other places that I've traveled to is just an absolute no. But in Puerto, everyone was like, oh yeah, walking alone at night, totally fine. Again, always be careful. I'm not gonna walk alone at night for fun. If it has to happen, I'll make sure to stay on the illuminated streets. And that's a good thing about the Rinconada, La Punta, Zicatela areas, is because it has a lot of tourists, it's very lit up at night. And then yeah, and during the day, if you're by yourself, you're walking around, I never really felt super unsafe. If anything's going to happen in Puerto Escondido, it's going to be something like theft, pickpocketing, or mugging. So just make sure that you don't have a ton of valuables on you if you're walking around going out at night. Keep your valuables safe and secure at all times. Don't get too comfortable, even if you're staying at a hostel where you trust everyone. You know, if you're not there, lock your stuff up in the safe, stuff like that. I will say though, knowing Spanish helped me so much to make sure that I wasn't getting taken advantage of, and it makes people respect you more when you know the language. So if you're coming to Puerto and you know absolutely no Spanish, I do highly encourage you to at least brush up and know some basic phrases going in, because if you just get into a cab and you immediately start talking in English and you don't even try to talk in Spanish, that's just kind of rude in my opinion. So yeah, knowing Spanish helps so much in just upping the respect for you and making you just a bit more safe in a lot of different situations. So yes, overall, Puerto is a very safe place for pretty much everyone. If you know Spanish, even better. The point of this video was really to give you a very honest, comprehensive overview of what it is actually like to be a digital nomad in Puerto Escondido in 2022 at least. Like I said, the infrastructure is improving because of all the people coming, but no, the internet is not the best. No, the infrastructure is not the best. But for someone like me and for many other digital nomads, it is very doable. So just take all of the facts that I've given you, maybe do a little bit more research and make your decision from there. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you found it valuable, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more future adventures and digital nomad experiences all over the world. And if you've visited Puerto Escondido yourself and have a different experience of the digital nomad life or just the travel life in general, feel free to drop that in the comments below to share with other travelers to help them out just a little bit more. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!